Trade. We want to see serious action that will incentivize companies to change their behavior, reinvest in America, and stop cheating the American worker, the American consumer, and the American taxpayer, the statement said. The UAW's support of the tariffs echoes its skepticism of the North American Free Trade Agreement and U.S. Mexico-Canada Agreement. In September, the UAW called the agreements a betrayal that led to corporate greed, with American workers ultimately paying the price. The UAW endorsed former Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of the November presidential election. Hannah Lutz. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada will not back down from a fight after U.S. tariffs of 25% on Canadian goods and 10% on Canadian energy went into effect early March 4. Ottawa imposed immediate reciprocal tariffs on $30 billion Canadian of U.S. imports into Canada. The response will expand to cover $155 billion in American goods if the U.S. tariffs remain in place for 3 weeks. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake, Trudeau told reporters March 4. The threat of tariffs has hung over Canada's economy for months, he said, with orders for Canadian products drying up and planned expansions at local companies put on hold amid the uncertainty. Now that Trump has moved forward with tariffs, we're going to see the real impact of a trade war between our two countries, and that impact will be to hurt American families. David Kennedy. Tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico will be worth the pain it causes the auto industry because it can help curb the flow of undocumented migrants and illegal drugs to the U.S., said Republican Sen. Bernie Moreno, a former auto dealer. Read the story. Open the map. Stellantis and Volkswagen are the European automakers most highly exposed to the new tariffs on vehicles imported from Mexico and Canada, according to Bloomberg Intelligence, which says the levies could wipe out a total of €5.88 billion, $6.2 billion, of European automakers' earnings this year. Read the story. Hear how automakers and suppliers are preparing as best they can for tariffs that took effect at 12:01 a.m. March 4. Listen to the podcast. Here is a look at why tariffs are being implemented, what they could mean for the North American auto industry, how Canada and Mexico could respond, and more. Read the breakdown. U.S. tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico went into effect March 4, forcing automakers and suppliers to brace for higher costs and significant disruptions to vehicle and parts production in a highly integrated North American supply chain. Read the story. Title: Top 5 Stories of the Week. Auto tariffs go into effect. Top 150 dealership groups. Content. President Donald Trump's tariffs on imported vehicles went into effect April 3, with the administration and some unions predicting the move will create more U.S. manufacturing jobs. Some in the industry worry the policy could hamper production, cut profits, and raise prices for consumers. Here's the rundown. President Trump said the U.S. will implement reciprocal tariffs on its trading partners, with rates varying based off levies, taxes, and trade barriers other nations place against the U.S. Those won't be added on top of the 25% tariffs on vehicles imported to the U.S. market. Read the full story. Live updates on tariffs. See the full list and analysis. General Motors' woefully underutilized CAMI assembly plant is a potential beneficiary of a commercial vehicle tie-up between the U.S. automaker and Hyundai, according to industry analyst Sam Fiorani. Read the full story. Ford Motor Company is making employee discounts available to all customers for the next 2 months, offering what can be several $1,000s in savings on most vehicles as tariffs threaten to raise prices. Stellantis later joined Ford with its own employee pricing campaign. Read the full story. Soaring demand for Toyota Motor Corp's gasoline-electric hybrids has left suppliers struggling to keep pace, leading to shortages of parts and months-long waits for car buyers. Read the full story. Title: Stellantis joins Ford with employee pricing discounts. Content. Stellantis is offering employee discounts to the general public, joining rival Ford Motor Company. At a time when President Donald Trump's import tariffs are roiling the economy and unnerving car shoppers. The maker of Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler said the discounts will be offered through April 30. This week we launched aggressive and consistent incentive and marketing support for April, including an exciting and competitive enhancement that will allow our customers America's freedom of choice between employee price or current cash incentives, a Stellantis spokesperson said in an April 4 statement. Sign up to get our monthly Done Deals newsletter focused on the latest dealership transactions and insights into the buy-sell market. The Stellantis offer comes a day after Ford launched a campaign called From America, for America, extending a plan pricing to everyone on nearly all models and highlighting the company's status as the largest U.S. vehicle producer. A General Motors spokesperson said the company doesn't plan to change its incentives offered in April. The Stellantis discounts are available on most 2024 and 2025 Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram nameplates. Exceptions include the Ram 1500 RHO and Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. Wolf said the employee pricing will be easy for dealers to administer and save buyers many thousands. Buyers can compare the discounts with pre-existing cashback offers. But Wolf said the new program likely will be a significantly better option for many shoppers because that's just an unbelievable price for the consumer. Ford's discounts, which also can amount to several $1,000s on many nameplates, run through June 2. Trump imposed 25% tariffs on all imported vehicles April 3, a move that analysts say could send prices soaring by thousands of dollars. The same tariff rate on major components such as engines and transmissions is expected to take effect by May 3rd. Stellantis produces numerous vehicles and parts in Mexico, including the electric Jeep Wagoneer S that launched in the first quarter, the Jeep Compass, Ram heavy-duty trucks, the Ram ProMaster van, its twin-turbo Hurricane 6-cylinder engine and its 6.4-liter Hemi engine. It builds the Chrysler Pacifica and Voyager minivans and the electric Dodge Charger Daytona in Windsor, Ontario. About 60% of the vehicles Stellantis sells in the US are assembled domestically, versus nearly 80% for Ford. Title: Stellantis dealers see signs of rebound amid another bleak sales report. Content: Stellantis had another rocky quarter of US sales, its seventh consecutive decline, as it battles to regain market share, overhaul its portfolio and adapt to a marketplace now being upended by tariffs. The company's 12% decline contrasted with a gain for the industry overall, yet some of Stellantis battle-tested retailers say they're seeing signs of recovery in what the company's US sales boss is billing as a comeback year under new leadership. Sign up to get our monthly Done Deals newsletter focused on the latest dealership transactions and insights into the buy-sell market. On the surface, the numbers were rather bleak. Deliveries sank 11% for the freshened Ram 1500 and Jeep's top-selling Grand Cherokee. Ram's heavy-duty pickups fell 13%, and Jeep's upscale Wagoneer SUV duo saw volume drop by more than half. Dealers see the red numbers but emphasize that momentum can be felt when fleet sales are removed from the equation. Fleet volume plunged 35% in the first quarter. Retailers also say the product lineup is in a transition period, with volume hampered by several models being discontinued before replacements were available. When you dig in a little bit, at least from the consumer and the dealer side, it's really not that bad of news, said Sean Hogan, vice president of Sierra Auto Group, which has 2 Stellantis stores in the Los Angeles area. To have them way down in fleet is not necessarily a horrible thing, right? Because, as you know, when fleet comes way down, that makes the consumer's car worth more, and it puts more deliveries into the dealer body, which is what we want. Stellantis said retail sales for the Ram brand rose 16% in the quarter and increased year-over-year every month. Jeep retail sales rose 2%, including a 14% jump for the Grand Cherokee. But with fleet included, Jeep had a 4th consecutive negative quarter, and Ram declined for the 5th in a row. Stellantis U.S. sales chief Jeff Comer, in a statement, said retail sales of models still in production were up 14%, and that the company expects stronger results as new models fill out the lineup. We're not playing with a full portfolio, but we're putting the basics back in line, Hogan said. We're trying to build and incentivize the cars that people want. When you do that, that lays the groundwork for a very successful future for Stellantis and for the dealer body. Dealer Ralph Mahalak said he sensed enthusiasm during an April 2nd call with the company's Midwest Business Center. Mahalak, whose Mahalak Auto Group has 6 Stellantis stores in Michigan, Ohio, and Florida, said retail sales in the Midwest rose 12% in the first quarter. Mahalak said the company's March spending on Tier 2 regional advertising was the most in 6 years, and he's getting more leads from company websites such as Jeep.com than in recent years. His group's Midwestern stores have less than 2 months' worth of inventory, down from 6 months not long ago. 2 months' supply up north is probably not enough, so we're going to have to find some more cars here soon and find the right ones, Mahalak said. But, at the same time, I don't mind being a little light on inventory until I know what direction we're going with Washington, D.C., and tariffs, and all these other things going on. Mahalak said the final months before Carlos Tavares resigned as CEO were frustrating and depressing, but he feels more upbeat about the company's direction these days. His stores have started hosting events to show off the electric Dodge Charger Daytona, the high-performance Ram 1500 RHO and the electric Jeep Wagoneer S. It's fun to be doing that stuff again, Mahalak said. Throwing your chest out, getting some wine and cheese and crackers and some hors d'oeuvres and invite people and say, check out my stuff. It's just been so much more fun and exciting than it was in 2024. Florida dealer Randy Dye said he was pleased with the incentive and marketing strategy Stellantis used in the first quarter. I think there have certainly been times when you grind your guts out, and there's times when you just got to figure it out, Dye said. That's what we're doing right now. We're just figuring it out. However, some dealers think the company still needs to go further. One dealer who asked not to be identified said Stellantis needs to help stores clear out aging inventory and offer more volume nameplates that can generate interest across the country, not just in heavy leasing and EV markets. The upcoming Jeep Cherokee replacement, which will be the brand's first hybrid, could be that type of vehicle. Whether in sports or in business, momentum is real, and we lost that momentum, and we're going to have to do something to get it back, the dealer said. Title: Tech, bank stocks bear the brunt as China retaliates to Trump tariffs. Content: U.S. tech heavyweights, banks and oil majors extended losses on April 4 after Beijing retaliated with additional duties of 34% on U.S. goods, amplifying investor concerns over an escalating global trade war that has stoked fears of a recession. Beijing's tariffs are set to go into effect April 10. The country also announced controls on exports of medium and heavy rare earths, and added 11 U.S. entities to the unreliable entity list. Shares of Tesla and Apple, among companies with the biggest revenue exposure to China, both slumped more than 6%. Alphabet, Microsoft and Meta also fell sharply. Shares of Detroit automakers Ford and General Motors were down about 3% and 3.6%, respectively. Automakers depend on a complex global supply chain for parts, while GM and Ford also count on China as a key growth market for their electric vehicles. Banks shares extended their declines following the countermeasures. The industry has been clouded by fears that a trade dispute could temper consumer confidence, reduce spending, weaken loan demand, and pressure fees from advising on deals. JP Morgan Chase, the biggest U.S. bank by assets, sank 7.3%. Wall Street Titans Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley dropped 7% and 6%, respectively. Crude prices, already feeling the brunt of an expected OPEC plus oil output hike in May, added to the losses. Oil majors Exxon fell 4.8%, while Chevron declined 4%. Top oilfield service company SLB dropped 5.8%, and the biggest U.S. refiner by volume, Marathon Petroleum, fell 4.6%. Tariffs from China, a major oil importer, could add to worries over slowing fuel demand. The trade war escalated, recession fears rise, and consequently oil demand growth is to take a sizable hit, said Thomas Varga, analyst at PVM. GE Healthcare's stock slid 6.9% pre-market, leading the losses in shares of medical equipment makers, after China also announced export controls on a rare earth metal that is used in MRI scans. Title: Josh Freed named Senior Vice President of Strategy and Operations at Automotive News. Content. In his expanded role, Freed, 34, will continue leading business operations and commercial growth initiatives while working with editorial and corporate leadership to drive innovation, develop new products, expand advertiser partnerships, and reach new audiences. Title: Lucid Q1 deliveries rise 58% on higher factory incentives. Content. Lucid Motors reported a first quarter sales gain of 58% compared with the same period last year on higher factory incentives per vehicle. The Newark, California, automaker delivered 3,109 vehicles in the first quarter compared with 1,967 vehicles a year earlier, the company said April 2. First quarter sales marked 6 consecutive quarters of record deliveries, it said. Lucid boosted its factory incentives in the quarter to an average of $12,877 per vehicle from $10,266 per vehicle in the year earlier period, according to estimates from data and analysis firm Motor Intelligence. The EV maker did not break down sales by model. Lucid launched the Air sedan in late 2021 and the Gravity crossover in December 2024. Motor Intelligence estimated Lucid sold 135 Gravity crossovers in the first quarter. Lucid said earlier this year it was focused on making Gravities for showrooms and test drives. Production at the company's Casa Grande, Arizona, factory rose 28% in the first quarter compared with the same period last year to 2,212 vehicles, Lucid said. Separately, Lucid said 600 vehicles were in transit to Saudi Arabia for final assembly and sale in the Middle East. Lucid is majority owned by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund and is building a production